Bless his heart, his wife died, and he hadn't been out in 3 years. Decided he needed to go out, so he got all dressed up, haircut, and he goes over and he goes to this piano bar, and he sees this good-looking, mature woman, and he says, "My dear, would you mind if I bought you a drink?" And then she said, "Well, no, I guess not." And so they were talking, sparks were flying and everything, until he leaned over, looked into her eyes, and said, "So, my dear," he said, "do I come here often?" Okay, thank you very much.
Only senior citizens can relate to that.
Let's pray. Our Father, we gather this evening, oh God, to feel a sense of quietness in our spirit, to remember a great truth that the wisest person is the one who can look the furthest ahead. And we pray, oh God, that we would be gentle persons, people who put more into life than they take from it. And we pray, oh God, for your wisdom, your sense of peace, a sense of following what we should follow and what we should do. And oh God, we pray for this institution, for every person involved here without exception. We pray for the staff, and we thank you from the bottom of our heart for them. May we understand we must affirm one another, because a rose to the living is worth more than a wreath to the dead. May we affirm one another, listen, and hear your spirit in Christ's name. Amen.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself to those of you that don't know me. My name is Beth Walter. I am the chairman of the planning committee right now, and this is Larry Larson. He is on the architectural committee. We basically wanted to have this town hall meeting to get information out to all the members, and everybody knows there's a recall going on, so we're just going to discuss everything that we can discuss now. There's first thing we're going to talk about is the social committee. They have some things coming up, and I believe Denise Myers is here to brief us on all of that. You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Denise Myers, and chairman of the social committee. The first thing is we have an event tomorrow. It's the Easter egg hunt tomorrow from 5 to 6. So we want to make sure everyone comes, spread the word. We want kids here like crazy. I had a really nice group of people that came up here last night and helped me stuff like 800 eggs. So we're ready. Anybody that wants to donate some refreshments, we're certainly open armed to that. We're going to have refreshments, popcorn, drinks, some prizes for the kids, and make it a really nice event. And then we have leftover refreshments. Bingo starts at 6:15 up here, so we'll let them in on the phone too. So anybody that likes to come, please come, spread the word. Also, we're always open to anybody that wants us to help us out. We're always looking for helpers. Join the committee. We have a lot of fun. We like to bring good events so that we have the ability to get together and have some social time and enjoy being here in the community and doing some good things. So please join. Also spread the word for that. We're always looking for help. So far as the rest of the year, we have a whole year booked of events coming up. So keep watching for the next event and next event. We'll continue to provide the opportunities and the dates to you. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Denise. Next up is Frank Myers. He's the chairman of the engineering committee that they put together. And he's just going to give us the latest word from DEP and what's going on with our engineering project on the back forty.
This is an easy one. Frank Myers, I'm Reef Road.
Move the microphone, please.
Better?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, there's no info from DEP yet, nothing from the county. We're not there yet. The Favor Engineering is doing survey work. The surveyor should be out here within the next couple of days to survey the site. The geotechnical people, I don't know They were out here last week. I'm not sure where they did their well drilling, but all this has to come together in the report, and we'll see where we go from there. But this is beginning stages. It's moving along. Talked to Favor today, and this is a high priority in their list, and it's going the way it should.
Okay. Next up is Billy Neal. He's going to talk to everybody about the annual Fishing Club Shrimp Boil.
The Holly by the Sea Fishing Club was formed about 5 years ago. One of the first things that they did was established some fundraising activities for local charities. One of the events is scheduled for the 26th of April this year, our annual shrimp boil. We normally do in the month of July, but because of the hot weather, the number of complaints that we got dealing with the weather, and additionally, we always did it on the same day that they had the annual elections, the Holly by the Sea elections. And for the past couple of years at least, it seemed like that there's been some events or activities focused around those elections that people didn't want to participate in the events. But we moved it to April this year. We're going to do it on the 26th of April, and we moved it from a Saturday to a Sunday. There was a flyer out in the lobby, or a poster out there, that basically has all of the information for the event. The event will be held down at Pavilion number 1, and there'll be a large tent that's stuck out down there that'll hold a couple hundred people in case the weather's bad. We have a silent auction with some nice prizes. We have raffles, 50-50, and we have a lot of fun. Not sure yet if we're going to have live entertainment like we've had in the past, but even if we don't have live entertainment, we have a good time, and it's a way to meet your neighbors if you don't know them, and it's a way to get out and do some of the fun things that actually go on within Holly by the Sea. The cost for members of the Holly by the Sea Fishing Club is $8 a person. The cost if you're a non-member of the club is $10 a person. So you can actually come out better if you are a couple, join the fishing club, because that only costs you $10 a year to be a member. And there's some other events that we have, like we do a pig roast out at Opal Beach in conjunction with Memorial Day each year at no cost to the members, which is kind of our member appreciation thing. But these events that we do, we've raised and donated more than $8,000 since our club was established back 4+ years ago. And our charities are the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, the Emerald Coast Chapter of Heroes on the Water, and the annual Navarre Fishing Pier, Take a Kid Fishing. And each of those years, our members work with some other organizations around here, and we bring them about anywhere from 300 to 500 kids out to the pier, give them some educational sessions, and give them a fishing pole, a t-shirt, and take them out there and let them catch a little fish or something, and they have a great time. And it's, if you've never seen little kids that they go out there and catch their first fish, it's one of the most exciting things in their life. You know, they'll even go and take this thing and pick it up and kiss it and hug it, and you just can't imagine all of the stuff that they do. We may even do something in conjunction with our pier out here, specifically for Holly by the Sea, this year just for kids of Holly by the Sea, but those details are still working on. In the past, we've made arrangements where that you could sign up at the front desk out here. I've got actual applications for tickets that I will make available to anybody that wants one. 22nd of April is the deadline for sign up. We have to have a couple of days to make sure that we get all the food and everything. If you don't like a shrimp boil and what goes in the shrimp boil, we have hamburgers and hot dogs. Our hot dogs have become world famous over the past couple of years. And nobody ever goes away hungry from these events. There's always food left over that people either take with them or we donate to the sheriff's office or some other needy organization here. But we used to make arrangements where at the front desk we could turn it in, but because of the unrest and we don't know what's going to happen here in the next few days, what we're saying is that you need to get the application if you want to attend. There's an address on here where you can mail it to the club post office address, give it to one of the club officers, or even the club POCs. Email address is on there. You send her an email and she will come and pick it up. Anybody have any questions? Kids under 5 are free at this thing. We always do something special for kids and they usually go away pretty satisfied. Okay, thank you.
Stay up there. The next thing up was the nominating committee for the annual elections. Everybody knows we have elections coming up in July. So far, I don't believe they put together an official nominating committee. Do you know, Bill? Does anybody know? We just want to get the word out that they will need people for the nominating committee and also anybody that wants to run for the next election in July. Do you have anything else?
Well, I would just say that I was on the nominating committee last year, and I received a call from Skip Hardenberg, who was the committee chairperson, asked me if I was willing to continue to serve, and I told him that I was. The other person that was on the committee was Dan Ramsey, and it's my understanding that he has indicated that he was willing to serve again. I've not received a phone call, any information from a board member to indicate that they would allow me to continue to serve. I'll be highly surprised if in fact that they do, because of the actions that I took last year for the election process involving the appointees, two appointees to the board. The election process to me is very important, and I served 40 plus years in the military to defend that process. And when somebody tries to abuse it, I kind of get upset with that. I would gladly serve on the nominating committee again and do what I think is right by you folks and the rest of those people in our community.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
we'll have the candidacy forms available by tomorrow. I just haven't printed them yet, but they will be available at the front desk if people want to put their name in.
Okay, so if anybody's interested in running for the board in July, she'll have forms available tomorrow. Yeah, thank you. Next is the planning committee. I don't know if everybody knows, but we sent out a survey a short time ago, and the planning committee's getting all that information back. We just figured we'd give you an update on some of the results. And Yvonne Harper was tallying all those results from that survey that we sent out.
It's not set up, but we can do that if you want to track more results.
So the objective of the long-term committee as appointed or as formed by the board of directors is to make recommendations for long-term planning. And so one of the things, Joe Campbell is on that as well. One of the things we thought it would be a good idea before we really start planning things and putting forth suggestions before the board or recommendations is to reach out to the community to determine what the community wanted. So I only have, what I have to date are 52 or 51 surveys have been returned, and the survey results are over there. I don't, unless you want me to go into detail, I will. I typed out all the comments except for 2 people's comments because they were rather lengthy, but if you want, I will read them. but it is there, and we are meeting on the 20th to go over the results. So please, if you haven't completed one, there were some out on the, in the front, please do so. I pick them up about once a week, and we're gonna try to maybe get it online, but they were sent via email to anyone who's provided their email address to the general manager. So, and it's just a series of questions: how long they've lived here, if the person rents, owns, or leases, how many children they have, the age breakdown of those children, and then there are 10 items, and they are to list in priority which one is most important, 1 through 10, and then an area for comments. And so some of the comments have been interesting, you know, like, which is to be expected. But please take part, because the only way we can determine what the community wants is for the community to respond. So any questions on that?
When do you come by again?
If we could get, if I can have them by the 19th, because we're meeting on the 20th, so that then we can then make recommendations to the board of directors at their next meeting. So if you can get it to me by the 19th, then you know, because I'll input the information as we go along. Any questions? So tell your neighbors their chance to have their voice heard. Thank you.
Next thing we're gonna talk about, everybody's been asking about when the pool dome was coming down, so I thought I'd have Jackie, our maintenance person, come and talk to everybody about that.
Okay. Many of you know that every year we take the pool dome down depending on the weather, the first, second, or third week in April. This year I was asked by the board of directors to take it down a week ago.
Oh.
Yes, I was. Guess why? Because I'm not gonna have a job here after Friday. They've decided to not hire me.
Don't talk it down.
Thank you. I can't. Yes, I'm on for Friday. And I cannot take the dome down, especially there's a lot of ladies that swim here in the morning. They do aerobics, they have arthritis. They're really in here under doctor's orders to swim. We promised them this. And so today I was told that the board of directors has now said we won't even take it down until, is it the third week in April? So they must have a plan. It won't involve me. So while I'm up here, can I just say that over the past couple of weeks, the members of Holly by the Sea have been so supportive of the employees here that we are, to say touched would be ridiculously understated. We love all of you. I don't know what the problem is with the board of directors. I don't understand what they're doing, but I will tell you this. I live in Holly by the Sea. This is my place too, and we will fight to get it back. And I'm going to be right out there. So.
I would just like to pass on something I heard. I heard that basically 3 board members said that they wanted the dome down, so they directed Jackie to take it down. I don't know about you, but it's a board. They're supposed to make those decisions in a meeting, not just talk to each other and say, hey, let's do it. The second thing is, you can't just say, take it down, and then it's down the next day. Jackie has always coordinated 2-3 weeks out for day laborers, scheduling everything, so it's not just something that gets done quickly.
Yeah, I didn't quite, I thought you said they had hired her back.
No.
She's not among the chosen.
Well, I know all of that stuff, but I didn't pick up on that.
No.
I've had to read this contract. Apparently I've read it a little bit better than some of the other people, like the ones that handed a letter to the Vice President of FSR. But from what I understand the contract, only one person can communicate to FSR about anything regarding the contract, and 3 board members. That's really nice, but they need to have, it needs to be done in a meeting, and then it needs to be communicated to FSR in a proper fashion. Paragraph 4 prohibits anybody but the president from communicating any issues about this operation.
Well, it's my understanding that that's what happened. They basically took a consensus and 3 board members agreed that it should come down, and then they told the GM. That's all I know.
And as you said, you need a vote.
Yes.
board meeting.
I'll see you tomorrow, I'll be around.
Next subject is the one I think everybody's here for, and that's the recall process update. Everybody knows John and Janet Longden had to go out of town unexpectedly. They might be back this weekend, but in the process, while they're gone, Larry Larson and I took over all the databases and trying to ramrod getting everybody out and excited about this recall. Right now, we're approximately 300 votes short of the recall, so we need to get people out there and start pounding the streets a little bit more, get some more people out there and not harass any of the homeowners, but get people to vote, whether they're for or against. We just want people to vote.
Yes. I just want to say that John and Jan Longden, I admire them for what they've done to spearhead this. And they started out with a tremendous amount of energy and education and whatever. And then they were confronted with a serious illness in their family, and they've had to go back and forth to the Carolinas. And they've still been trying desperately to continue with their initiative. And my thoughts and prayers go out to them because they're really going through a very tough time, and I really admire them tremendously. When I got involved with them to help out as a team member to try to get signatures on the ballots, we made a lot of progress in the beginning, and it was enthusiastic. And then I had a feeling that we were going to reach a plateau, and I spoke to John about it, and I said, some of our people are getting a little tired of knocking on doors. You know, you can do it rain or shine or whatever, and after a while you get a little tired of it. Some people have a little apprehension about, some of the ladies would go out and they were a little fearful about knocking on doors, and so we've evolved, and we're at the point where we did hit that plateau, and then it's just like absolutely amazing what happened. The community started to hear about the people that have lost their jobs, people that have really been dear to a lot of the residents here, and they respect these people, and their job performance has been stellar for not just a couple of years, but for a long time. I've been working the table out front, and I can't tell you how many droves of people come in that are absolutely appalled by what's happening and want to know where they need to sign to try to contribute to this recall. Things have we are literally on fire right now when it comes to signatures. It's just a matter of us getting a few more people out there, and I would gladly help anyone that would like a little bit of training or would like me to go out with them. I'm advocating that people go out together in pairs instead of by themselves, because one might help the other with a little bit of anticipation. I encourage anybody to come up here that would like to volunteer in any way, shape, or form after the meeting, and give me your phone number or email address, and I'll do the best I can to find something that will conform to your schedule. But we're so close now. We really have to push just a little while longer, and we're going to hit our goal. And we're going to be able to turn our community around and have it back again. And I think this is going to be a really tough lesson for us, but I think ultimately it's going to be a wonderful place to live that we all want. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
A couple questions on the recall. The first one is, do you have a specific date when our drop dead date is? For
I don't have that with me. John Longden has the original ballots, and it's basically the 120 days from the date of the first ballot signed.
Right, and then the other complicating factor is, based on the July elections, there's a 60-day grace period. So if a member is recalled that's going to be elected, he can serve out his term if he's within that 60 days.
Right, 60
there
days
needs to be a
from
little
that.
date line up, and I'm not sure what those exact dates were.
Yeah,
But
back it up.
roughly
The third Saturday in July is when the annual election is. So if you back that up 60 days,
okay.
if we don't recall them before then they would just serve out the rest of that term.
And the second recall related question is, since Brian Miller resigned, I'm guessing only 2 of the candidates can be seated, or is there a provision to take Ryan Miller's replacement?
We're trying to contact an attorney and get specifics on all of that right now.
Okay. But hey, who's better than none?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I've been going on the street I live and the friends that I have in here, and one of the big things that's confusing to them, it doesn't seem like it should be, but if their husband's deployed or they're in the middle of a divorce, they think they need both signatures. So I was wondering if maybe the next paper, if we could just clear it up and say, we only need 1 signature if you're on the title per house or lot. Because the lady that I talked to yesterday, she thought she had to have her what's going to be her ex-husband sign, and that was uncomfortable for her. And I said, no, just 1 signature.
just
So if
one
we
signature.
can clarify that, because I've run into it several times.
Okay.
Beth, one question. Could you explain the process, once we hit the goal of 2,400, at that point, what happens? I mean, do we take these 2,400 and does it, they have to be counted officially?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on this. John is the one that knows all the ins and outs. I know the basics. It's my understanding that we notify the board when we feel we have enough votes. The board has 5 days to have a meeting from the day we notify them. At that meeting, they either accept the ballots or they can challenge the ballots.
Okay. Well, you know what's gonna happen.
They have 5 days to respond.
Okay.
So they'll have 5 days from that meeting. They'll decide whether or not they, sit there and count it.
All right.
Then on that 10th day, I guess, Alex, is that true? They gotta basically make a decision what they're gonna do.
So they're either gonna walk, suppose, when they count and verify the ballots, is somebody from the recall team gonna be there and supervise this, or is?
I believe what we're going to do is scan all of the documents, and we may keep the originals and let them have the copies. We were already talking about that, but we're not just gonna hand over the ballots to them.
Yeah.
Because at some point in time, we're gonna have to make these available to Tallahassee, to the Capitol.
Yeah, if they challenge it, then everything has to go to Tallahassee to the Department of Business Regulation.
Okay, so in the 5 days, if they decide they wanna challenge it, then it goes to Tallahassee.
After
If
10
they don't
days.
accept it.
5 days to have a meeting,
Right.
then they'll basically discuss it, I guess, or, review the ballots for 5 days and give us a response, whether or not they're going to accept the recall and walk away, or challenge it and fight us on it.
Okay.
I'll draw it.
But they need justification. They need justification.
Go ahead.
I don't know about that, Billy, to be honest.
On fighting this, you mean?
Rejecting it.
Billy Neal is saying that they need justification
To reject it.
to reject it.
They can't just say we don't accept.
Yes, sir? Okay, make sure you speak up, because you're way back there.
Please forgive my ignorance. I'm new to the area. I just moved in, like I see, bought my house and
Can you come up here, sir? We can't hear you.
Welcome to come up here.
Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Please forgive my ignorance. I just bought my house in July. Recently retired from the Air Force. I was an over-the-road truck driver, and I was gone pretty much throughout the week. This is like my second time here. Saturday, I had somebody come knocking at my door, asking me about this. I received a letter in the mail with, for lack of a better term, accusations toward these 3 individuals. What process have we gone through for some type of mediation for them to respond to these accusations? Were they invited to this meeting to
Yes, sir.
respond to any of this?
Yes, sir. Since we had a board meeting in December, they made a few decisions that a lot of the membership felt were not proper. In January, we thought they were going to have another meeting, our normal monthly meeting, so that everybody could discuss it, but 3 of the board members didn't show up, even though we had like 60 people.
How many board members are there?
5. They have to have 3 minimum for a board meeting. 3 of them decided not to show up at the last minute.
Those 3 that are on the recall, actually.
They've had, the board has had numerous times to respond back to the members on everything that we talked to them about, but for the most part, they don't respond to us.
And the 3 individuals that are being nominated to be in, I have no idea who does anybody else?
2 of them right over there.
Will you stand up?
Rod?
I'm glad to talk to you afterwards.
And I'm just wondering because I get a letter in the mail asking me to kick 3 people out, vote 3 people in. I have no idea who any of the 6 are.
Right, just so you know, the 3 people that would be voted in, they would only be voted in until July. They're basically just filling in until our annual meeting in July. Come July, all bets are off and we have either 4 new people or 5.
And then, and that's what, 60 days you said from now?
Well, July, the third Saturday in July is when we have that board meeting, or that annual membership meeting.
But Crawford would still be in.
Unless she's recalled.
Unless she's recalled.
Yeah, unless she's recalled, she would still be there.
It's a 2-year term.
Okay.
She is in her first term, or her first year of that 2-year term.
And what's your name?
Chris Mitchell.
And if the recall does go through, you're going to have ample time to watch us go through the process of interviewing and selecting people, and now have an open forum where you can come and talk to the people that are nominees for the new board seats. So you
Okay, so we're just doing a recall right now. We're not actually going to fill those seats automatically.
They will, if we do the recall and the recall succeeds, those 3 people that are at the second part of they would fill those seats until July. And then come July, it's all new elections.
we have an entire new election for a 2-year period starting then.
Actually, it'd be probably 2 of them would be for a 1-year period, and then 3 for a 2-year period, so that you can stagger, because you don't want to have a new board every 2 years.
I'm just, like I said, I got this in the mail, and I don't know who any of these people are. And it's like voting for the president. You don't know what they stand for.
Well, there's
what they're going to do for the community.
2 of the board candidates that are for replacement for the recall. They're here, and they'd be willing to talk to you.
I'd be willing to hear.
And grab a Holly by the Sea News on your way out.
Yes.
And we did have meet and greet sessions. There's a great point on both sides, and it's really fair, so you can.
And we did have a meet and greet with the 3 candidates, but you probably were not. So, yeah. But they'd be happy to talk to you, I'm sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You mind if I say something?
No, anybody's not saying anything, just keep it civil.
Oh, no. So for the gentleman that kind of just got keyed in, that's how I was a few months ago. I kind of got looped into this situation and found out what was going on. My name is Scott Schellenbarger. Of course, I'm probably all over Facebook, but that's really the way I have to get to people and communicate what I'm seeing is kind of crazy. But I wanted to direct this at the gentleman and anybody else who was like me, not particularly paying deep attention to what was going on. The biggest thing that I can say is I had a unique perspective because I came into this with no sides, nobody I was picking, and I read the contract and all the addendums for the FSR contract. I read all the information I could find. I went into our contracts and I analyzed them and our covenants, and I looked at the bylaws because I didn't want to come off, half-cocked and uninformed. Then I had an opportunity to sit down with Mrs. Crawford and have a 2-hour lunch, okay? And I got to listen to her, and I appreciate the time that she took to talk to me. And I've tried to remain civil towards her because she has been respectful. Some of the other board members, not so much respectful, but I try to remain civil. What I want to relay to the people in a verbal format now is the basic thing that I got from Mrs. Crawford in my lunch. I put it on Facebook a little. I really didn't want to do this because I tried, when people have conversations, you try to be private, you try to be respectful. We're past that with what they've done to our employees in our community. So what she told me in our lunch, and she did give me permission to record it, although I did not, but you know, that means I can repeat this. She told me that she had someone who basically was a confidential informant that told her that FSR is doing things to damage us. And if I knew what she knew, that I would be on her side, quote for quote. And I said to her, and my wife was sitting there, we both had lunch down at the golf course. I said to her, if it's something that is so critical and true, why can you not say what it is, at least say what it is? Well, I wouldn't want to violate the confidentiality of it, okay? The reality is somebody who lost a contract with us is mad at FSR because of it, is making up stuff. I see people on Facebook saying, FSR is taking stuff from us, FSR does this to us. If you read the FSR contract, there's nowhere in there that they take from us. It's a standard, reasonable contract. I've been in the medical business on the sales side with capital equipment, involved in very complicated contracts. I'm an engineer by trade, so I approach sales from an engineering perspective and contracting and try to be factual. The people that say that, and I'm not here to protect or say that FSR is great. What I'm trying to tell you is that they're lying to you, okay? We have been lied to. We've been lied to in writing. Someone here today wrote a letter to the general manager saying that he was attacked, that he was yelled at. He confronted my son. He ripped up a sign, one sign that said "Stop Crawford" that was on the thing out there. These people are liars, okay? That's it.
Just for, if there's other people like the gentleman who spoke before, Scott, who want to know what am I going to do. I'm Bob Bauer, live on Treasure Street. I'm one of the replacement candidates. Just to sort of echo what my same sentiments, I was not involved until January. I saw a controversial decision made. Fair enough, controversial decisions happen all the time, and bad decisions happen. I'm sure I'll make them myself. What sets this apart is then they hid from that decision for nearly 60 days. We tried to get answers from them for the whole month of January. It took this recall effort nearly 2 months before we got the first piece of information from the board to explain their actions for why they fired FSR. It shouldn't take a recall. I did not want to recall these people. I wanted them to explain themselves, and apparently we're beneath being explained to. So that's what got me fired up. The day after the recall was filed, we started to get some one-sided information. I was sad that Ryan Miller resigned. He showed promise. I saw him communicating with us on Facebook. For some reason, though, the communication got strangled. At some point, I'm told that somebody wanted all information to flow through them. That's a sign of a failing organization, if you ask me. But I won't get into those details. But what can you expect from me? I too am retired from the Air Force about 7 years ago. It's been a while. I worked in Valparaiso. The last thing I wanted to do was get involved in the board. But I did step up to fill in the gap as a stop measure to just slow this down. They made a decision to undo what took a year to put together. Putting a management company in place took over a year of planning and study. They did it in one fell swoop. That's just crazy. Obviously, you can see since they fired them, they were with no transition in place. That was what we were asking about. Well, if you're going to fire them, what about this? What about that? And it was proven that none of that they were prepared for. You don't fire somebody without cause, without having a plan. If I get on the board, the first thing I will do is make a motion to rescind the termination vote. I pretty much won't do anything else other than rescind that vote and try and restore relations with FSR as they were. I don't know what hurdles will stand in my way, but just to sort of put a stop sign on it. What then they can do is perhaps build a committee, like a long-range committee, that will look into a transition from FSR to self-management when the contract runs out. Why break a contract if there's no cause to do so, other than an alleged savings of $250,000 a year, which they still haven't made the case for. all we wanted them to do is make the case, why should they fire FSR? And they have done nothing but obfuscate the issue than elucidate. So again, I don't want to be on the board member. I was a happy camper, kayaking, fishing. I love living here. We got some of the best facilities in the world. I want to go back and just worry about that. So if you have any other questions from me on what I might do, that's basically it. I don't have any grand visions to make it mine. I just want to do the mundane business of what a HOA board of directors should do. So, that's all.
Just so everybody knows, this is your chance to voice your opinion on anything you want, because this is not a board meeting. You can say whatever you want. Just, like I said, keep it civil.
This is another response also to the gentleman in the back. I'm Rod Danner. I'm one of the other replacement candidates if the recall is successful. And Bob and I are essentially on the same page. I didn't really want to do this either. I have no real interest in being on the board, but I do have interest in doing what I think is best for our community. And I'm willing to fill in until the next election. And Bob will get my vote on his motion also to reinstitute FSR. And I would make an additional one that we hire our employees back. This is a great bunch of people that work here. And when they choose to keep FSR employees at 30% of their annual salary penalty, because FSR recruited them, hired them, trained them, and yet they cut our employees loose that wouldn't cost a thing, I have a real problem with that. And all I see is vindictiveness and shady dealings from these people. And we need to get in there and try to straighten this train wreck out. But I'm a little concerned they may have left the station already. But if you want to talk further, sir, I'll be happy to talk with you. But Scott hit the nail on the head. We've been lied to time and time again. And I've stood up here and had them lie to my face when we were talking about the erosion project back there that they threw away $55,000 of our money on. And they told me to my face that they had a performance bond. They did not. They had an enforceable contract. They did not. I told them that DEP was at a minimum going to request an as-built certification. She sat right there and told me it was speculation. And I sat down and I got on my phone and I texted the manager of DEP, and he told me that they had asked for more time so they could get an as-built certification. So that's 3 times right here, and it's on Sandy's record that they lied to us. And they've done it time and time again. She started out, her platform was a lie to begin with, that we were $900,000 in the hole, that we had a $30,000 tennis pro that has been relieved of duty at that time. And just on and on. You just have to wonder where it stopped. So I'm going to stop.
I just have to say just a few things, and then that's all I'm going to say on the matter. Yay. There are some of you here who disagree with the recall efforts. There are some who agree. I've been accused of surrounding myself with hate mongers and mobs, and been accused of sleeping with whomever I want. Which has only been my husband since 1992, by the way. So, but for me, it's not about first service. And I have been really surprised at some of the people that I have watched over the years and reported on, and how they always stood firm on doing things the right way. And I have been surprised that these very same people have been staunch supporters of the way the board has conducted themselves. If getting rid of first service was the right thing to do, then it should have been done the right way. 3 board members colluded with each other prior to a December 2nd meeting. How else would 2 of the board members not have any idea that the agenda is going to be added during the new portion of the meeting? And it's recorded. People can listen. It's not like this is made up. How else to explain a board member not being there but being called at just the right time to give an affirmative? How else to explain a typed letter of termination? That is not the way the board is to conduct themselves. The board is not to conduct themselves by putting a posting for a general manager on a closed Facebook page with the statement that for full disclosure, here I'm going to post it, but we already have somebody in mind. Not telling people that information. Providing false information about the reasons why for the termination. If it's right, then it can be done right. This whole idea of, the means justify the ends, I've never been a subscriber to that belief. And we have had board members and homeowners describe the board president as my president, as the CEO. She is she was elected to be a board member. The board members elected her to be the board president. She represents this homeowners association. That is who she represents. Each of those board members represent this homeowners associations. They have an obligation to respond when we have questions. And the reason that people are so frustrated is because there hasn't been a response. As the gentleman said, it took almost 2 months just to get them to respond to why they did what they did. And then to accuse people of making some of the foulest comments, and to spend time as a board member searching through arrest records to accuse them of being felons. This is not conduct becoming of a board, and it's not right. So the people who I have watched over the years, they now support doing something the wrong way because they agree with the outcome. Well then, for those people, I don't want to hear, for the rest of my time here, one word from any future board that they disagree with, because it's convenient when they don't agree with the decision, then they don't like the process. But when they agree with the decision, to heck with the process. Yep, that doesn't matter. They can do it by hook or by crook, and that's okay, because I agree with the outcome. To me, that's inconsistent and it's wrong. So for those people, if you don't like, if this process is okay, then I don't want to hear any complaint in the future. And you know who you are, those who are here, unless they've already left. Because it's not right. Either we do things the right way, or we just go home and shut these doors and maybe sell it and just be done with it.
Solve the association.
There you go, we can do that too.
Back to the
Tell them, Beth, tell them what happens.
Cannot sell the association, it reverts back to the developer if we don't want it.
I think the big question is, what was the hurry? I mean, do it the right way, do it by the legal way. What was such a hurry to let go of First Services?
I have no idea.
I think because some people had an agenda.
Right. And it wasn't part of the homeowners association's wishes.
A personal agenda.
Right. So the people that don't know that should know that.
I know a lot of people are upset about how much we pay the management company, but we get a lot more for what we pay for. One example that I'd like to throw out there is if for some reason, I'm not wishing any harm to Alex, but if something happened to Alex tomorrow, the next day, First Service would have another manager sitting in her seat.
Absolutely.
But right now, if we go self-manage, our new manager decides to quit, we have to go through that rehiring process all over again.
you explain the qualifications of that management person, there's more than just, oh, hire a manager that they know how to manage, right? They have to have state certifications and other things.
Yeah, you have to have a community association manager license. There's different levels of that, but we need somebody that has experience.
Were you on the board that hired FSR?
I wasn't on the original board, no. I was on one board that terminated them, and then we renegotiated and hired them back.
So you were part of the amendment, so they have the addendums to the
Yes.
contract, because there were some problems, and then they addressed the problems in those amendments and moved
Yes.
forward.
Yes, we did.
And they've got awards for managing, I
Yes.
saw.
Beth,
Yes,
how
ma'am.
about explaining to, there might be some people that don't know, how we got into this fix in the first place with the 3 resignations and why they resigned? And that's how we got into this situation started.
Are you talking about the 3 resignations from July?
Yes.
I don't know why they all resigned. I know Earl Dean is here. If he wants to say why he resigned, he's more than welcome to talk. For a little background, back in July we had an election, and five board members were elected. 4 of those have already resigned. 3 of them resigned within, I believe, 10 days of that. I don't know all the particulars of why they resigned. You would have to talk to them. And then we had Ryan Miller resign after he accused someone of harassing him, but I don't believe that was the case.
We asked for the names, they can say anything, but it doesn't make it true.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to talk about anything? If you can talk about anything, it doesn't have to be the recall, it can be whatever you want.
Mike Hart of Citrus, and I'm proud to admit that I am probably the current board's antichrist. But I always put in the good humor with factual stuff, so I can't turn around and say, look what he said, ooh, can't put that piece of it. Once I cut and paste his email, I'm gonna have to. What a lot of people don't realize is that, unfortunately, if the employees that have been terminated or any other legal action that potentially could be against those folks, that's against us. And so to me, that's a fine line, because just like Scott, I got to a point where I said, I don't give a crap. You're gonna get 100 chances of me to say, and I engaged Ryan Miller right when he ran. I helped politic for him. And when he got hired, he wanted to have a long talk with me on first service and what would happen if they would be terminated. There's a lot of costs. Community Association Institute, there's a couple head sheds of community associations that generally say that if you terminate a company like that, usually 9 or 10 months or 11 months of fees to get back to ground zero. That's if there was a transition plan. And again, there's not. So, when I actually, I work for a major defense contractor here in the area. Personally had Ryan Miller at 4 jobs. There's another couple other members that did the same. So we were, I guess, on that, trying to help the young man out. Air Force terminated his employment, and he seemed like a reasonable man. So again, none of us have been bad guys up front, but again, we just have to remember that I did a lot of homework with first service. And everyone here has to realize that nothing is free. There's no such thing as a damn free puppy.
That's right.
We pay them per month, but they bring a lot to the table. At what point do we quit scraping nickels together and say, we're gonna cut the damn employees in half. We're gonna cut this down, but then you're gonna say, you have to remember that their plan is half volunteer folks. All you folks out here, you're going to be working, throwing chemicals in the pool and sitting out there. No, that is, honestly, that if you really dive into it, that's the plan for the employment. Because I shoot barbs at them, but I did my homework. I did my homework a lot. And first service, of course, you pay them per month. The software, all that stuff that you folks have heard, it's all part of their deal.
That's right.
$20,000 for this, that, and other thing. Well, that's part of their $3,900 a month that we pay them. At what point do we quit scraping nickels and say, hey, we could probably save more money, right? I guess we could. But if you take, I would say, being on the last board, fast forward to probably last June, because since July, the only thing we've gotten is $55,000 flushed down the toilet. So prior to that, if you think how it was last summer here, you know, all of us would go there. No, this place is pretty decent. You know, Jackie, Chris, thank you. I've known her since I've been there. I still fault Chris, you're the one that convinced me to run for the board. Yeah, but the point being is, I never wanted to settle for mediocrity, but it was fine. And Alex's company, they renegotiated their contract. I mean, it was kind of rough that first 6 or 8 months when Pete was the president, and we admit it. I mean, they got terminated, and they reapproached the board and said, we can do all these things, and we re-voted them in, you know, to include votes from like Trainer, etc. Folks that were big, not advocates of that. And so the contract was extremely positive for the community. So, I mean, I don't know where we're going to go, because you just have to remember on the 4th or 5th of April, I don't know what's going to happen. Again, with half the employees, you know, I don't want to tell people to not be team players, but there's a lot of volunteer positions here that are going to, you know, are going to need to be filled. Or if you're a volunteer, I mean, if I was volunteering, you know, you don't want to make it. How painful do we want to make it before they just go, okay, you guys are running? And that's a bad attitude. But again, you know, like everybody in ACC, just quit. Just don't do anything. And then eventually it's going to be so painful that it's going to be, oh, okay, you know, you guys win, but we don't want to be that way. But again, I just implore us, recall or not. I mean, I volunteered for the nominating committee, I think with Chrissy, and there was a sign up here, but just like Billy said, you know, nominating committee, what do? They vet the candidates again. Remember, anybody that's qualified to run can be on the ballot. You know, the nominating committee just kind of facilitates the meet and greets to make sure the candidates are not felons and are current on the news and things like that. I mean, those are some of the qualifications, and they live here, of course. But I'm going to be, you know, I've been running around for the recall, but I'm telling you what, I'm going to be running around and make sure we get, well, either 4 or 5. But you know, I admit I'm not going to volunteer to support or help support or politic for anybody that's in favor of the current regime. You know, I'm not. I mean, we can change this, but again, I think there's going to be some irreparable damage if they are not recalled.
One of the things you could point out to like the gentleman that didn't know anything what's going on is that you could have volunteers with the best intentions and think they're doing the right thing, like that problem in the back, the erosion problem, and what, you know, they thought they were doing the right thing and they took it over as a volunteer, but this person, she's the one that protects us from that $55,000 mistake.
I'm going to use the roof as an example and I'll be done.
Okay.
We, at the time, I signed the roof contract, at the time I was president. First service during the duty, they found the contractors initially. They went to their first service contacts, and you know, the current board does not believe that having that first service name on her shirt gets you some preferred pricing, and that's not true. Just by virtue of that name tag saved us almost $15,000 in insurance. And again, they'll say, no, they didn't. They did.
How about the engineer? He reduced
Well, right, engineer as well. But again, the roof, we saved about, I think it was 50 or 60 based on being a preferred vendor. And the first service vendor had a better scope of work. But again, the point being is they did the homework. They got a hold of the engineers. They brought the folks out here. They made all the phone calls as per the contract. They're supposed to be involved in every bit of vetting, hiring, negotiating contracts. They sent it to their legal department, not Michelle Akers. And they did a bunch of homework. So we, as a board, had 4 packets that were extremely detailed, and we could make, Gina, you know, we could make very educated choices. You know, and everybody, of course, says, well, we could have gone cheaper. You know, there was one vendor that had his price was half. Kind of like the erosion thing here. Well, what do you get?
Yeah.
You know, we were suspect when we saw 250K, or not, it was 1/2 of what the roof was. And First Service, doing their diligence, said, hey company, Did you understand the scope? We're gonna give you another chance. Did you really mean half? And they really never did get back to us. I mean, the company kind of went, I don't know what their motivation or thought process was, but First Service did a lot of legwork for us, and it made it extremely easy. We brought all that stuff out in front of everybody. We had those contracts reviewed. A lot of people said you could go cheaper, you could go more, whatever. But I think we made a real good decision, and we had any leak. How's the roof been, Alex?
It doesn't leak.
But again, the point being is the contract. We just have to remember, everybody, that a lot of things that's happened with First Service, the contract has been violated. And it may get better, or make it worse before it's better, because if there's any legal action, it's going to be against us or no.
Violated by who?
For example, by just the fact that Alex and company have been cut out of all, for example, the erosion project. They should have been doing all the vetting, had their hands in everything. Alex knew nothing. She knew that there was something going on in the back there, not really sure what, but something was. That's in violation of the contract. They're allowed to do their job. I mean, they have to be, it's not just a day-to-day thing, it's strategic and tactical as well. So again.
The board members violated the contract.
Yes. Now, but it's
because the
right.
GM is supposed to be the one person
Right.
who makes
And Billy makes a good point. It's because there's not really, unfortunately, a policing agency for HOAs. Everybody goes, man, we can just stop them legally. You could go to some people tried to find a sympathetic judge in Santa Rosa County that potentially looked at maybe fraud or wasting community assets or something, but they wouldn't touch it because there's bills in state legislature right now to make it more like a condominium association, and then there'd be some teeth, but there's not. So again, a lot of the doing the right thing falls on the board. There really is no, anyone watching the hen house, unfortunately. That's the reason that First Service does what they do. I mean, I appreciate, everything, and unfortunately, I never thought it'd be at this point, I'm kind of laughing back in July going, you guys, kind of laughing. The community, that you got what you asked for, She went around in politics, they got a bunch of votes. 370, 377, we had about 700 people put in ballots. We got 2,000 around for the recall, so you're like, okay. She did her politic, and I don't want to keep, she slandered a bunch of us, including me. I was extremely offended that I didn't realize that I was, I guess I made a vote to either lose $18,000 in the tennis program or buy pool lifts for handicap. So it was an if-or thing. I chose to lose money with the tennis program. So again, that was echoed to out in town. I find this out 5 months after the fact, so I'm still not really certain if I'm going to do anything, but that hurts. So again, I'm being accused of being a anti-handicap person. Which is, I find that appalling actually. So again, that's the kind of stuff that we need to consider for the next set of candidates, and let's ride this out. I mean, I appreciate the folks out here. We need, I don't know how many ballots we need.
About 300 more.
That's not many.
Not many.
What else you need to consider is volunteers are not covered by insurance and can sue the homeowners.
You're exactly right.
And that's what needs to be thought of more than anything, because all of us will be responsible for any lawsuits that incur.
Workman's comp,
There's no workers' comp on a volunteer, and there's a reason why.
And I was going to say Chris was going to be throwing chemicals in, but I guess that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not.
I know.
It is. It could be a problem. Sure.
How long did the roof leak before?
10 years.
It started in 04.
When it was installed.
When it was installed. It started leaking about a couple weeks after it was installed.
And there were, by the way, there were 4 roofs. Mike, right? 4, Alex, 4 roofs under there that they had to rip up just on the flat roof over the 21. They had packed 4 different times.
Hi guys, I'm Chris Bartnick on Bahama Drive.
It's been an emotional few weeks, so please excuse me. I want to thank all of you for your support. First off, you don't know what it means. Second of all, what Alex has gone through. I don't know how she's done it. She's been there for us. She's got an organization in this place that we didn't have before. We cannot self-manage. And we've got a good company. There's not much more to say, but again, thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
My name is Joe Campbell. I'm a reformed Alex Crawford supporter. For me, the process is about the process. They stifled speech and discussion the whole way. She tried to get support right away, and from us, from me, and everything was, as long as you didn't agree with her, that was it. So my concern now is how do we cross the finish line? And I think now we need some suggestions. The table is one. Scott, if you're still going to grab the roster, we need to keep that going. Even after the fourth and fifth closed, even afterwards, we need to keep that going. The other thing that somebody smart and very near and dear to me suggested along the way here was, you know, the facility's closed on the 4th, right? So all those folks that don't come by and read the sign, maybe we need to stand out there when they show up and it's closed, and we hand them a ballot and say, hey, 16-year-old, take this back to your parents. Sign it. Get it back to us. You can't hear, because we have people that, if you can't terminate a contract by not signing a letter and not dating it, I have no confidence that you can actually run a multi-million-dollar organization. And to me, that's the issue. Everything has been, you know, private emails, Alex, you need a plan, you need a committee. Oh, I think one person or two persons can do it. No, I think they prove not. So.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate the suggestion that was made, and but I would not like for my son or daughter to come up here and give them anything. If you're going to give out ballots, it should be for the adults only.
Okay. So when that young teenager comes in and they can't use the facility that you paid for?
Then they go home and tell their parents, and the parents take the action. That's exactly what we're here for.
So if we hold it out and not ask them and they just take it from our hand?
Most of them have.
I guess the point is, I think we need to do some sort of manning there, so that when we come in, there's some sort of dialogue, say, well, it's closed because. And if you're concerned it's closed and you don't know why it's closed, then maybe your parents or whoever supervises you need to read the paper, read the recall. But I think we need organization, some suggestions to how can we cross this finish line to get these other three. That's all.
Hi, my name is Eric Halverson. I'm a relatively new tenant to the area. My fiance has been here for many, many years, 33. She goes and works out here almost every day. And now we heard we're closing the 4th and the 5th is Easter weekend. Now, we haven't heard yet at all, are we definitely opening up Monday? Is our facility going to be available? And if not, when?
We don't know. We haven't had any correspondence from the board.
So when we pay the homeowners association, it just,
You can do
where
a
does
class
it go?
action.
Well, technically, your association fees are strictly for maintaining the facilities.
Okay. So we don't have any control over that or anything? I mean,
I'm not sure if you can do a,
is the board has a final say we don't open on Monday?
well, to be honest, the board never decided. Alex Crawford decided.
Okay.
There was never a vote to close the facility.
I think you need to go ahead and approve and get a class action lawsuit started against both of them.
I don't know if you would consider that suspension of usage rights, because there is a process in 720. If your usage rights are suspended, they're supposed to notify you 14 days in advance.
Yeah, we have no notification.
And you're supposed to be able to come before a violations appeals committee, but none of that is being done. I don't know if this falls under that same criteria or not.
Okay, so we have no idea when the place is gonna reopen or if it will.
I think everybody's assuming it opens Monday because they only said it was going to be closed Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
Remember,
Yes, sir.
This has been a point of contention for many meetings. I've asked them to develop a fleshed out plan instead of a skeleton. They have not done any plan that has any flesh. We don't know what positions they have. They presented a plan. They never voted to accept what they call the plan, but it's actually it's like fishbone skeletons, what they're gonna do at what time. But they never fleshed out the cost, they never fleshed out the details.
Right, I feel like a lot of the decisions that they're making right now, they're decisions being made by one person, not by the board of directors.
Right.
Well, we don't know.
Maybe two.
Maybe two.
We don't know how they decided it was me.
Well, I think there's one in an echo.
One in a white.
One in an echo.
All right, I had not planned to come up here tonight at all. My name is Jean Tashley, and I served on the board with Mike Hart. There are several things that need to be clarified. One is that 5 people were elected in July. Alex Crawford, Carolyn Mike Scott, Earl Dean, and Ryan Miller. After 10 days, Earl is still here, Earl Dean resigned, and both the Scotts. I happened to be up here when Mike Scott returned something to the accounting office, and I said, Mike, why did you and Carol resign? He said, and this is a quote from him, he said, Crawford was asking us to do things that were totally illegal. I could lose my house, everything that I have, that Carol and I have worked for, if we did what she has asked us to do. I know it is illegal. I've been on boards before, and I cannot do what she is telling us to do. So he and Carol resigned. And I was very, very upset because I felt like he could have done a lot for us. The day that those 5 came on board, Alex Crawford walked to the microphone, took over the microphone, and declared herself president of the board. It was not, she was not nominated, and when I asked Mike why he let that happen, he said, I was so stunned that I didn't know what else to do, and they consequently went ahead and voted her in. So that's to answer that question. Beth and I were in the accounting office one day up here, and to emphasize what Scott said, that she lied to us face to face, and that wasn't the only lie that that she did. That's all she knows to do, is to lie. As far as hiring first service, Bill Stewart and his board spent almost 2 years investigating, researching, doing thorough work to find out about different management companies. We had town hall meetings up here. And I was not even thinking about running for the board at the time, but I came up here to listen, to find out about what was best for Holly by the Sea. Most of the people up front will tell you, I'm up here more than anybody else, that this is my home away from home, and I don't want anything, and I love these employees up here. My heart goes out to them because their morale is in the toilet, and I just can't tell you how much I feel for them because of what's been going on. But all this research to find the right company that fit us, and it took them 2 years to find the right company. And like I said, we had town hall meetings, people came, they expressed their decision on how they felt about it, and most everybody said, yes, we want a management company. We want consistency, because we had a GM, one right after the other. Some of them stayed 6 months, some of them stayed a year, but there was always problems. When we finally got a management company, this woman, Crawford, comes in, and in 2 months, she makes a decision to get rid of them. And I asked her, I also asked Bill Crouch, how many town hall meetings did you go to that we discussed getting a management company? None. Zip. Zero. Bill Crouch had never even been to a board meeting, except when he came up here one time to ask for a waiver for his granddaughter to use the fun factory. That was the only time he had seen the inside of this place, the only time. Crawford came up here, her first meeting up here. She said, well, where can we meet? Somebody said, oh, you can meet in the screen room. She said, where is that? She didn't even know where the screen room was. She knew nothing about this place. New board members are required to take training. Every one of us took training. We went to 3 and 4 different trainings. Crawford knew so much, she refused to go to any of the training that FSR offered. Not one single training did she go to. Not one. We wouldn't be in this fix if she had gone to the training. She would know that everything she's doing is illegal.
Gene, it wouldn't have mattered. You'd still be doing it.
You're right. I keep telling our general manager, you need to pat yourself on the back. You need to tell everybody all the good stuff y'all have done. They've saved us beaucoup amount of money. I could stand up here and list everything from the insurance to the engineer that helped us with the roof, that got the roof, that told us what to look for, what the scope was, what we should be doing. Everything from the pool to the tennis courts to the erosion problem. We wouldn't be in this fix with the erosion problem if they had gone through FSR.
Absolutely.
Because it would have been done right.
Absolutely.
So, like I said, I wasn't planning on talking.